things. But there is one issue, and I'm sure most of the people that tune in has something to do with the draft constitution.
Okay.
There is one thing, one fundamental thing that people expected that 2016 will bring, that we will have a new law of the land, and that is the constitution. We've all followed what was the 2020 draft. People label it People's Constitution. We all know what happened. Politics pretty much killed it, if you want to call it that. Now here again, we are looking at a constitution that people label the Barrow Constitution, with changes, things like that. Where do you stand on this debate itself? Because most people are saying this is dead on arrival. Most likely we're going to go into 2026 still under the 1997 Constitution. Is there a way out of this quagmire, Mr. Sallah?
Yes, there is a way, and the way is already laid. It's very clear. It's laid by our understanding of the standing orders, our understanding of the constitution that is the living constitution of the land. What we must bear in mind is a constitution is not an instrument of the executive. It is an instrument of the people, and we must refuse for others to take ownership of constitution building. The people must build the constitution because ultimately they alone can make the constitution. Finally, the people are the National Assembly members who agree to a referendum and then agree to a draft constitution for it to become law. So people are lawmakers, and we must see ourselves as that. So what law do we want to make? That is the question. You've rightly said it. In 2016, we agreed that the 1997 Constitution had many flaws that needed to be amended. How? Were we going to promulgate a totally new constitution, or were we going to amend the portions as required by its own provision, Section 226? That debate did come at the level of the National Assembly. At that material time, my thinking was different from the rest because I still had the 3-year mandate in my head, that if we were to serve this 3-year mandate, then it was faster to amend the portions of the constitution that we wanted amended, because we did not overthrow the 1997 Constitution as Gambia did the 1970 Constitution. Then you can bring a commission to prepare a whole draft, go to a referendum with speed, and then pass it, and then you have a new law. But this constitution was a living constitution when we came into office as a coalition. What it says on the Section 226 that there are entrenched clauses which cannot be changed without a referendum. There are non-entrenched clauses which can be changed without a referendum, and that has been done with the 65 years. Both requires procedure, and the procedure is what matters. The procedure is that you publish it 3 months, second publication no less than 10 days, and then you take it to the National Assembly, first reading, just to read its citation, and then move to the second reading, where you discuss only the principles, not the content. That's where our National Assembly members got wrong. And I was in National Assembly, we should have discussed the principles, why we needed a new constitution, because it's required by Section 101 of the Constitution. There must be a memorandum indicating the objects, the reasons, the principles for bringing the bill to the National Assembly. So you discuss that. And that's a very simple matter. All of us can easily agree on that, because you must have something that you want changed in that particular constitution and why it should be changed. Now, it requires 3/4 majority to pass that phase, and that's where it failed. Looking at it, and if everybody take a second look, you will see that it was totally unnecessary for that bill to fail in the second reading, because the next stage is what you call the committee stage in the National Assembly. The committee stage simply requires that all subject matter specialists in dealing with constitutional matters could be invited.
Mhm.
The religious leaders, civic organizations, anybody who matter, who had interest, could be invited to do a critique of the constitution. I've written a book on this issue in constitution building challenges. Well, that would be in the hands of the National Assembly members. Others may write all the things, it will be in the hands of the National Assembly members. So, with that, the National Assembly members will prepare their report, including any recommendation that they may make for amending whatever portions of the Constitution brought before them. Now, if during our time, the government had really sought a proper advice, knew what it was doing, then there was no need to do anything and collaborate with anyone to defeat the bill at the second reading, because they too have every mandate to come to at the committee stage
Yeah.
and indicate what
Yeah,
they really felt they were dissatisfied with.
definitely.
So that would have been considered. At least at the third reading, you may defeat it, but at least we would have done everything that was possible to reach some form of compromise and amendments before it goes to the consideration stage, where we actually make the law itself, that where everything we agree will stand part of the bill to go to the approval stage and to a referendum. So in short, we felt during the first attempt by the CRC, and I made an attempt to really bring it back. In what way? Not because we all supported all the provisions of the Constitution. I was telling our members today that if you look at the 2020 draft, just as an example, when it comes to the tenure of office, the 2 terms limit, in the 2020 draft, it says that there should be 2 terms. Now, in qualifying the 2 terms, whether the first term of the president will serve as the first term, when the president comes into office,
26.
after the constitution comes into force, whether that will serve as the first term of the president, they qualified that in the transitional and consequential provision by indicating that the first term, that once the constitution comes into force, then the person sitting as president will be the first president of the Third Republic. So whether he will sit for 2 months, 1 year, so whoever is there, at least that serves as your first term.
Mhm.
And then what about the second term? What they put, I know it's a mistake. I can read their mind. I'm sure what they wanted to put is that, well, the person can serve only 1 more term. But
Mhm.
what they said is that the person can contest elections only 1 more time. So you can contest an election and fail,
Loose, yeah.
and then you must contest again, and so you can contest election as many times as possible, as long as that will be your second term. So therefore, that's an error. Of course, if we had gone to the committee stage, those
Right.
are the things that we would have pointed out, and there are many things that one would disagree with. I will give another example. Is this civil servants' participation in politics? If the election decree 130, section 130 stated that if you are a public servant or employed by any agency, if you are a candidate, you will have leave, paid leave. Up to 5 days after the election, you return to your job. That's a decree,
Mhm.
Decree 78, 1996. But then, when the Constitution came in the 1997 Constitution, you will see that Section 170 is saying you have to have 1 year leave without pay. Obviously, it shows that a decree is even more progressive than the Republican Constitution. I'm against that, and I would want that to be changed. But you see that the 2020 draft, and I would have contended that at the national, the 2020 draft of the CRC indicated that, well, you will go for 6 months leave without pay. Of course, I would not support that. And the same thing with the cabinet draft. It is also saying 6 months without pay, but its provision is ambiguous, is absurd, because it says that without pay, but then at the bottom it comes up with another clause and saying if you fail to win, then you will return to your job immediately. So those are contradictory terms. One language is this 6 months without pay, leave to be able to stand, and then another is saying you will return to your job. So it means that a constitution that is coming as draft will have so many, bots that the National Assembly members are supposed to treat at the considerations, at first at the committee stage, and then at the consideration stage. Those are the amendments they will recommend. And I've clearly stated that in the book so that all the procedures will be understood. And if they are understood, the question is, should we entertain that scrutiny before the third reading and see whether consensus could be built, or do we throw it out at the second reading? So that is left to us. Those are the questions before us. But there are many things in these constitutions that we need to corroborate and see what is best for the nation.
So your advice is, as far as the 2024 draft that is gazetted, for people to allow it to go through the process?
I'm not giving any advice. I'm simply saying I know what you mean, but the reason why I'm not giving advice, I'm just enlightening. Let people make their decision this time. Well, let me just explain. Let me just explain. Let me just
push back a little bit.
You see, in 1996,
just allow me to say this.
When I say this, you can go ahead.
Okay. There are people, and it's just reality. When Mr. Sallah speaks, even going all the way back to the impasse, there's a reason why there is always public support. So what we are saying is positions and leadership taken by you on this matter that we believe is important, and most people are saying is dead on arrival. Something needs to be done, and your voice matters. So call it advice, call it leadership. If people like Mr. Sallah doesn't speak forcefully, clearly this thing is not going to work, and we'll be back to square one.
Yes, maybe I need to explain myself. What I'm saying is we need this constructive conversation, and I believe this is the way forward. You are initiating something that is still not in depth. We will move into concretely what the 2020 draft is saying, what the 2024 draft is saying, what exists in the 1997 Constitution. So you will see how these three documents could be integrated if we so desire, and where the procedure allows even something to be derailed, if you wish, at another stage rather than certain stages. So these are all matters that, of course, I'm willing to discuss with people. And I remember in 1996, we took part in helping people to understand that what was at stake, because people like the former president all were against the draft constitution. When right before their eyes, decrees were supreme. So the 1970 Constitution has been suspended, and decrees were the supreme law of the land, and all laws had to conform under the supremacy of decrees. So you had that, and now you are being told that adopt a constitution which will be the supreme law. You say no, ignore that, and you continue to remain under the supremacy of decrees. That did not make much sense. So therefore we had to educate for people to understand context, and that's what you are saying now. This, what you've raised, is very fundamental. I am saying let's stretch the debate for people to understand, and ultimately people themselves will say, well, this is what we should do. I can guarantee you that once everything is clear, we will come to a consensus that nobody will be able to reject.
So quick question from Saltal before I give it to my co-panelists. Saltal, he's saying that, Honorable Sallah, the question is, New Gambia requires a new Gambian. He's saying, looking back from 2017 to date, do you believe we have a new Gambia? Are we as a people equipped to create a new Gambia as sovereign citizens? Loaded question, Mr. Sallah.
Well, if we are unable to agree on a constitution, which is the fundamental law that should guide every aspect of our public and private lives, then the question goes back, have we done sufficient education to enable our people to be sovereign people? Without the people becoming sovereign people, we do not have a new Gambia. We do not have a new Gambian, because a new Gambia rightly must depend on the new Gambian. And it is this new Gambian we must nurture, and we must take every opportunity. Now is constitution building. Let us join hands and take the opportunity and work on this particular challenge of constitution building and see how far we will go.
Brother Saria, the camera is
thank
on
you
now.
all.
Whoever is managing the video. We can hear Mr. Sallah clearly, but we're not seeing him. Go ahead, Saria.
Yeah, Mr. Honorable Sallah, thank you very much. Listening to you, you mentioned failure of the Constitution, and I understand when the coalition came together, you did not, take a cabinet position because you want to go to the National Assembly because that's your forte, and you felt that you would make a lot of strides out there. Now, listening to you on the draft constitution, obviously, you were a National Assembly member and 5 orders. Could you explain to the viewers what were your responsibility and the responsibility of each and every member within that assembly and what their rules were?
Well, the responsibility was very simple. Lawmaking is about procedure. Once a bill for the promulgation of a constitution is brought, I think if you follow my presentation there, it was in support of passing the bill at the second reading. Because accepting it to pass did not mean that you accept the content to those who understand parliamentary jurisprudence, because it goes through procedures. I hope that you will get a copy of my book. I've done that in detail to really show what parliamentary procedures govern this constitution building process. One, you only discuss and vote on the principles during the second reading and nothing more. So once it passes, it goes to the business committee of the National Assembly, and they remit it to a committee, and it can even be the committee of the whole assembly. At the committee level, the role is to scrutinize the bill. For me, I explain and I try to move the members so that they see the need for it to go to the committee stage. So if we had gone to the committee stage, this is where you scrutinize the bill, clause by clause, and you invite subject matter specialists and concerned persons. For example, there was a debate between the Christians, and the Muslims, intense debate, and almost, fiery one. And really, it was somewhere saying, as part of the draft in terms of laws of the Gambia, it mentions Sharia. Now, the reality, the context is that constitutions must take charge of humans and also group rights. So if certain people are Christians and Muslims, if they have certain rights, you can also conserve those rights in the constitution so that it becomes a supreme law for them, but it excludes others. So what it says is that Sharia in terms of inheritance, divorce, and marriage would constitute a law under the constitution. Okay, some felt that no, that is really creating a religious bias of some sort. But the reality is what I emphasize to many of the people who were Christians is no, no, no. This is protecting group rights. So if you want your group rights also to be protected on marriage, inheritance, and divorce, that's what you insist to put in that constitution also, so that both religions will be protected in terms of marriage, inheritance, and divorce based on what their principles are. If you have certain principles governing those areas of your life, of your group life, that's how we should have managed the discourse, etc., etc., etc. Now, at the committee stage, all those things that you wanted to put in or to remove could have been done based on the debate. Then it goes to the consideration stage, where the committee will present a report and the recommendation for amendments of the provisions. And then at the committee stage, we start to make the law. It is the National Assembly that makes the law. You just bring a bill. If you ask the person who was in charge of the pension fund, this petroleum bill, going all the way to the women's enterprises bill, we took that, and you can see how we almost every element was touched. So the National Assembly is the lawmaker, and therefore we could have looked at all the elements that were of concern to the people and see whether we can agree. If we agree, those provisions would have been put in the Constitution, and then it goes finally to the third reading, where we should need to approve it. So you asked me my role. My role was to move it to that level. And when the first one failed, well, what the standing order says, you can make a motion to revoke the decision. I'm sure that you may have known that I've also made an effort for us to revoke our previous decision, but that also did not go. So those were the steps taken. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, Honorable Sallah. Thank you very much. But now, Honorable Sallah, obviously, when you look at the composition of the National Assembly, and the second reading, the third reading, all the names were not able to make the headway. And I think Musa said, when you speak, people listen. But looking at all the mechanics and the formulas that plays into pushing one of the most fundamental documents for the Gambia, and we could not make stride, or we could not push it to implement it. And I think the fundamental question was that a failure on each and every member in Parliament not being able to come to a consensus? Because yes, obviously there are pieces that one group or another person would not like, but you have to compromise in order to implement. And that gives back to ground zero, that the 2026. Now, you're not in Parliament. Now, when you were there, it was an issue. And I think I hold all the names, with all due respect, to account for that failure. So now, how do you see moving forward on a difference? Well, what were the breakdown in terms of implementing to take it to the second or third reading?
Yes, you must bear one thing in mind, that in all jurisdictions, I'm sure Musa will tell you, in the United States, they keep record of the votes that the members of the Congress make on all issues. So you cannot offer collective blame in a parliamentary setting, because each votes or abstain to vote. So you indict them by their vote. What I can tell you, when that bill came in 2020, in fact, it fell because of a slight margin. We have a 3/4 majority threshold. The absolute majority accepted that it should go to the committee stage, not because they supported the content, and that must be stressed. But because it is at the committee stage that you can actually scrutinize the content, and it is at the constitutive stage that you can make amendments to the content. So therefore, you can allow it to pass to go to the stages where you can scrutinize and amend, make proposed amendment to see whether we can agree or will not agree. We did not reach that stage. That's what I'm emphasizing to you, that we stopped the process at the second reading because it could not get 3/4 majority. It had absolute majority, more than 50%, but 3/4 majority is a higher majority, and it could not attain that. That's what I'm emphasizing to you. And there can be no collective blame. It's those who did not vote for it will explain why they did not vote for it for that to happen. But secondly, we must also bear in mind that at that time, maybe the understanding of the people had not reached that level, National Assembly members, to reach that level of understanding parliamentary procedures. It may be different now that after all this explanation, parliamentarians may know that they can dispose of the bill at the third reading. So why not allow possibilities of debate and contrast to reach a particular consensus, if that may be able to happen?
Honorable, I just want to follow up on that question here. I think I understand how they work and the one person, one name voting for the bill or against the bill. I clearly understand that. But obviously, there was a threshold that was set. And obviously, what I'm trying to, the collective blame is how come we could not? I mean, you talk about educating folks, knowing what they need to vote for. And I think looking at the hindsight, how come we did not do that at the time? I mean, if this was a critical and most important piece of a legislation, and that is, it would be the one of the hallmarks of the transition government. Obviously, did not do it. Was not done. It was short. What kind of assurance do we have that somehow what didn't happen at that time when people like you were in parliament and you have 5 other members in the parliament from your party could not build a consensus and bring folks together? Because I think some of you from your party had the most experience, mentor the new folks to ensure that at least things that they could not be agreed on, or kind of push it to the second level by educating them, mentoring them, and coaching them. And I think that was not done. And I think that's where my question is. If that was not done, irrespective of one person blaming, we could have built this and get to that, because we knew it was 2/3, but it didn't meet that. That's why it failed. So now moving forward, looking at hindsight, how do we make this possible?
Yes, it's important to report accurately. As I said, when the bill came, it's a day's discussion. People may be influenced from the outside who discuss the content. That's what I'm saying. They were looking at the content rather than understanding that we should discuss the principles. So hindsight means that you must sensitize National Assembly members to really understand the procedures more. And I believe that those who are there now should be more groomed. They had an opportunity of the past, learning from the past. And once that is the case, the fundamental question still stands. Do we allow the bill to pass the second stage, the second reading, and then go to the consideration stage? Or should it be thrown at the second reading? That is the debate that you've raised. I'm emphasizing that we need to have more understanding of the content of all the Constitution, 1997 to 2020 draft, and the 2024 draft, which is now the existing draft for consideration by the National Assembly, and then engage in debate on it. And ultimately, we should build a consensus. That is the task.
Thank you. Go ahead, Musa.
Mr. Sallah, suma mbokki fana nañuy wax ne wax léegi doo ko yërëm de. If we all came together in 2016 to remove Jammeh, And fundamentally, we said having a new constitution is a priority. We had a candidate that we all supported. The only reason why he was elected is because we all supported him. ñun ñep ñoko comme ni mbare kat yi di wax ñun ñep ñoko support. Here we are in the making of a new constitution. ñun ñep xam nañ Mr. Sallah the role that the incumbent, the NPP government played in this process. The people that voted against it were more or less NPP candidates in the National Assembly. They're the ones saying that they don't want it to go to the second reading. So man nimako gisee mooy ne clearly it was the Barrow government that brought it to the National Assembly, but at the same time ñoom ñoo ko undermine. And here I would say play the game Sam. They tinker with the 2020 draft, make the changes that even undermine some of the things that we wanted to see change during 2016. That is, we don't want an executive government. That is, we want to decentralize power. All of those good things, they went ahead and changed it. And here we are at it again, Mr. Sallah. And it looks like it's going to fail because of the role that they play. 2020 draft failed, man, personally, because of definitely the executive had a hand in it. You never have the threshold. It wasn't going to pass because they voted against it. 2024, they went ahead and changed it. And I'm just saying, I mean, how would this change? How would it pass? If they're not interested in seeing it pass.
I'm going to wax man la déglu bu baax fenn rek lañ uuté mooy ne yow yaay president yow yaa dig ne yaa ngi lead coalition yaa dig ne nga am constitution bu bees yow su fekkee ne li nga war a def pour am constitution bu bees yow sa bopp yaa ko def ba constitution bu bees amul loolu naka la doomi Gambia war a gisee dama téye ne loolu mooy wax ji mooy ne mboolem ko am éene pour ñu am constitution bu bees na ci def éeneem
correct
mboolem koo xam ne kii nag moom nekkul éeneem pour ñu am constitution bu bees ñëpp nañ xam ne kii moo tax constitution bu bees mënut a am loolu mooy politique bi mooy ne li ñu warut a yërëm mooy ne nit ñi dañu war a jël décision di xam kan moo def lan ak su defee loolu naka lañ ko war a gisee kenn warut a toog ne kii laay blame kale laay blame te gis nga yow lii dox lan la sa buta ngi ci loolu kenn waratu la ko wax sax mu mel ne lii leer mooy ne lañ waroon a def ca njëlbeen
correct
pour réew mi doxee nañ ko soxlaa woon ci coalition waaye d'accord nañ ne loolu amul loolu moo yàqu ca dooren ba fi mu nekk nii nag mooy ne dañ am nguur goo xam ne gi comme ni fi président Jawara nekkoon comme ni fi Jammeh nekkoon mooy ne nguuri ki nga xam ne moom lañ fa taaj la mu gisee boppam président dafa am warugal gi leeral nañ leen ko ne ca doorin ba man ni ma waxee ne noonu lañ war a toppatoo constitution bi sax demeewul noonu yoo xam nga lu
correct
because man li ma waxoon mooy ne li nga xam ne dafa sax ci constitution bi ne mënuñ koo laal fekk damuñ référendum nañ ko jël liñ ci bëgg a wecci ñu génnee ko seppi ko defar ko ba pare isi ko ci néegi député yi ñu fexe mu jàll ñu dem référendum li nga xam ne itam nag député yi mun nañ koo defar député yi defar ko su ko defee loolu jarul référendum ñu ëlbati ko ci constitution bi loolu warut a jël benn at lépp a jeex wan nag doxeele wuñ ko noonu dañ toog ne léegi dina taxawal commission te moom la nguuram taxawal moom moo taxaw commission même si commission bi moom moo leen tànn ñu waat loo leen ñu def seen liggéey ñu ne constitution ba moom lañ ko war a jox ñu dem jox ko nañ ko waxee mooy ne nañ ko publish ci gazette bi ñu publish ko ci gazette bi nga xam ne kenn mënatu koo laal mu isi ko ci néegi député yi ñu door di waxtaan yow moom fekk moom amul parti foofu waaye nag am na ñoo xam ne ñi soo leen seetee di nga ne moom lañ àndaloon ndaxte gis ngeen ne UDP dafa xaajoon dafa amoon ñu génnoon ci UDP waaw mu mel ni loolu ñun suñ wax waru cee egg because nekkul wax ju am fayda ñëpp xam nañ loolu gis nañ loolu waaye ñëw nañ ba nga xam ne loolu moo tax mënuñoo am soo xaajee néegi député yi ñeneenti xaaj moo tax mënuñoo am ñetti xaaj yi moo tax constitution jàllu waaye nag niti Gambie yi suñ déggee li nekk ci constitution bi am na lu ñoo àndal ak lu ñu àndalul foofu itam ngeen war di gën di leeral ndaxte niti Gambie liñ foogoon mooy ne su beneen nit ñëwee ne li yang ci sax te moo tax ñun d'accorduñ ci dangaa foog yoon a tax ñu d'accorduñ ci liñ war a gën a wone mooy doxalin ci néegi député yi nekkul ne soo jàllalee li nga xam ne mooy dañ ko ooyee kayiti éene gi loi dafa doore ci éene ñu ko ooyee kayiti éene googu balaa moo ñëw nekk loi ñu ne fu moo njëkk a jiitu mooy dinañ waxtaan lan mooy dalil ba balaa ngaa dugg ci bunte yi ci dalil bi nag foofu warante bu bari nekku ci ku nekk rek am nga sa dalili bopp gannaaw dalil ba nag danga koo yóbbu ci comité bi kuréel gi nga xam ne moo koo segg di seet bunte yi ndax ànd nañ ci ndax ànduñ ci am na lu bari lu nekk ci constitution boobu am na ñu bari ci néegi député yi duñ ci ànd wala suñ ñëwee ci waxtu segg ko ci nga ko war a wax ñu mun a fexe seet ndax dinañ ànd ci génne ko waaw loolu nag moo amutoon ci li CRC isi woon te itam fi mu nekk nii nag foofu la ñu toll ne ñoom dañu dem isiwaat man li ma leen gënoon a wax sax ci su may bind yi mooy ne dañu waroon a taxawal benn consultative committee constitutional consultative committee boo xam ne dinañ ko jox juróom-benni weer ñu waxtaan ak askan ñu wax leen li nekk ci 1997 constitution li nekk ci CRC draft bi ba mu leer ci ñoom laaj leen lan mooy seen xalaat ku nekk wax xalaatam ñoom ñu jël loolu bind report jébal ko nguur gi jébal ko itam askan wi wante jaaruñ ci ndigal yooyu mu mel ni ñoom dem nañ defar liñ bëgg a defar jël ci 1997 jël ci CRC li mu defal ak seen xalaati bopp boole leen isil ko askan wi ne lii lañ bëgg mu nekk constitution li ma wax mooy ñoom amuñ doole pour def dara mu nekk constitution liñ am rek mooy isi loola mooy kayiti éene googu ñu isi ko ci néegi député yi nag ñoo am pour segg ko ñoom nag suñ koy segg mun nañu wax ne lii baaxul lii lañ ci war a dugal suñ mun a ànd ci loolu di nga mun a am constitution suñ ci mun sa ànd nag du mun a def foofu la ñu toll bon nag jamono ji ñu toll mooy jamono segga li nga xam ne mooy constitution boobu boole waale ci CRC lañ bindoon boole waa ci 1997 constitution maa ngi wax ne man sax bind naa téere buy segg ñetti yooyu yëpp pour dimbale askan wi ñu mun a xam la ci nekk su ko defee si jamono su mun nañoo wax député yi ñaax leen ñu xam naka lañ war a def ane loolu foofu lañ toll.
So Mr. Sallah, nobody doubts you had a relationship with Barrow. Absolutely no doubt about that, especially at the beginning. And I don't have any details, but I also believe he respects you immensely. How is your relationship with him? Do you communicate with him? Do you call him behind the scenes? Do you see that there is a need for somebody like you, based on your relationship with him, that you can interject as far as this constitution building is concerned? Because I do believe the role that the current government, Barrow himself, can play for the survival of this constitution, in as much as ultimately they're the ones that are going to make it happen. But man, I still believe he has a huge role for this thing to work. Do you think, again, the question is, do you communicate with the man? Do you see yourself injecting behind the scenes to give him advice? Or what do you think? Or am I just talking?
No, lu nekk dañ ko day xalaat foog naa ne léegi-léeg ni nga day gis yenn leetar may koo bind société affaire de Palestine moom mooy di OIC chair bi ma ñu noon leetar ci wàllu Palestine lan lañ war a def ba mun a saafaraal jafe-jafe boobu loolu dem na moom ci office mu mel ni loolu day am wànne nag li nga xam ne doxalini réew la danga war a bàyyi sa xel ne président ni réew kenn mënu koo forcer ci dara te soo bàyyi sa xel bu baax mooy ne benn nit waratu jóg ne yaa ngi koo advice ci mbir li nga xam ne moom laa wax tem leer mooy ne ñoom ñoo tardel constitution bi nga xam ne daanoo ci néegi député yi ñu oo président yi ex président yi Nigeria ak yooyu li ma leen wax mooy ne ñu ngi tardel mbir yi because loolu mënu cee def dara ñaari yëf rek moo mun a xew mooy la nga xam ne moom la CRC bind ñu isiwaat ko ci néegi député yi fekk wécc nañu mémorandum bi ndax foofu la daanoo woon loolu doo ko mun a isiwaat foog nga defal mémorandum bu bees nga isi ko wala nga taxawal constitutional review committee boo xam ne dina segg yëpp boole ci ñëpp jël xalaati ñëpp ñoo jébbal la ko nga mun a seetaat na la noo isee constitution boo xam ne ànd naa xalaati nit ñi mu dal di ñëw ci néegi député yi waaye xam nga bunte yooyu yëpp xewul fi mu nekk li xew moom lañ war a xam mooy ne ñoom dem nañu bind nañ liñ isi ci néeg ci bugg a isi ci néegi député yi def ko ci gazette bi loolu mooy li xew léegi nag li nekk suñ warugal moo ñu segg loolu ndax lii lu mun a antu la ndax munut a antu man li ma ca mun a yokk mooy ne dafa am doxalin te fekk xamuloo doxalin mu ngi mel ni xamuloo fi nga jëm man ne leen doxalin bi ñoom liñ bugg a moom la ñu bind waaye nag mënuñoo amal loola pour ñu amal ko foog député yi d'accord ci te député yi foog nga xaaj leen soo xaajee ñeneenti xaaj foog ñetti xaaj yi d'accord ci balaa moo mun a am bon nag gannaaw loolu la ñun li ñu war fi mu nekk nii mooy bunte bu nekk ci ñoom liñ ñu jox ñu segg ko la fa ay CRC defoon itam ñu segg ko lii yëpp ak 93 li segg ko ñu seet lan moo gën ak yeneen xalaat yu rafet ba tey député yi am nañ doole suñ ko jàllalee mu dem ci committee stage am nañ doole pour dugal ci loolu yëpp su fekkee ñoom mun nañ cee d'accord foofu lañ toll soo li ñu yaakaar rek mooy ne ñañ jël def la ñu nekk député dinañ am ñor goo xam ne suñ amee xalaati nit ñi yëpp dinañ war a isi loo xam ne lii xëj na dinañ ca mun a d'accord pour ñu am constitution bu bees loolu mooy fiñ toll. baro lan la ci baro munaat moom mel ni moom daf ci bokkaatul sax moom su xasee isi loolu mu ngi mel ni nag ci biir waxtaani député mi nekk ci biir néegi député yi su fekkee ñoom nangu nañu seen njiit it jaaral leen fiñ bugg a jaar loolu ba tey moo laa woon fi suñ démocratie bi toll rek loolu nag
baro ben tey am na ci warugal de am na lu
bëri la dama bëgg nga dégg suma waxin bi bu baax maa ngi wax ne loolu tam nañ koy leeral nit ñi because suñ ko leeralu nit ñi duñu xam nguur naka laa doxee maa ngi wane ne fi mu nekk ni exécutif bi mënuñu forcer pour loolu nekk loi pour constitution bi nekk loi seen éene moom lañ bind loolu nag dafaa ñëw ci néegi député su ci député yi d'accord soo leen xaajee ñeneenti xaaj ñetti xaaj suñ ci d'accord loolu mooy nekk loi bi mooy dem référendum bi itam mu ngi aju ndax sax nit ñi d'accord nañ ci ndax référendum bi itam foog la nga am juróom fukk ci téeméer ñuy wote ñoo xam ne am nañ carte wote nga am juróom-ñaar fukk ak juróom ci téeméer ñu war a wote balaa moo mun a am xam nga loolu tam nekkul caaxaan soo mu mel ni nekkul lu yomb waaw lii dafa laaj waxtaan tigi ñu xam itam ne kay gu am fulla la te moo ëmb niñ war a doxalee réew mi bon nag ñun ñëpp bokk nañu ci te war nañ koo segg nam ware.
Yeah, Sariang, I guess we got another round before Mr. Sallah. We held him for
5 minutes. 5
minutes. Mr. Sallah, thank you very much. Mr. Sallah, I speak very little Wolof, but I think I understand what.
You can ask me in Mandinka.
No. It's okay. I understand where you're going, and I wanted to follow up on the question there. So understanding the polarization of our current political environment and looking at how we got here, in terms of the consultation process to bring the 2024 Constitution. Obviously, we all know where the threshold stands. And going to the second and third reading. I mean, I'm a realist, and you had more experience in that National Assembly than I think it's probably 0 to none for that to go past those stages based on what happened up to today. So what do you think that would be different? I know you talk about being educated, but the political environment says something totally different. And what it's totally different. So where do you think that things will be different with the 2024 versus the 2020, which had, you know, the CRC, and they had amendments, and they bring it out, which they did. I mean, they gassed it. But what are some of the steps leading to that was very, very critical. And it looks like there was a lot of pushback. So what do you think would be totally different now, especially where we live in this current situation?
Is the national conversation. What you have just initiated. Has this happened before? We are beginning a new process of interrogating everything that matters to us. And I believe that that is the momentum we should build. Not a momentum of disengagement, as if we're not interested. We are interested, and we must be involved. And that's why I'm saying that we must continue to use this opportunity to educate people more on the content of our draft constitution and the existing constitution. That's the opportunity we have. Let's exploit the opportunity and let's enrich the minds of people. Let's know what is wrong, what is right, what they try to put there that serve executive interests, what they put there that may serve some other interests. Let's look at everything and engage in a conversation among each other so that we can build consensus or unanimity as to what constitutes the constitution of a republic and how do you build it. That is important.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Sallah. I like that. I think, yes, to be optimistic, but I really think if we could not achieve this in 2020, when the likes of Halifa Sallah was there with 5 other members.
No, I think our premise is different. I am saying you have the people, you have the National Assembly members, you have the executive. In 2020, the people were kept aside in terms of the debate. But this time, the people are upfront in terms of the debate. And this engagement you have shows that you are upfront. So that's what we should expand. Let it be a national debate. It may not come, it may come. But know fully that if a new constitution does not come into being as a result of consensus building, it is the 1997 constitution that will continue. So I'm not sure whether that will be a matter for laughter. I think that is a matter of showing that nobody should say anything to Jammeh again for calling for calling that constitution a soldier's constitution. Jammeh has done everything and change it this way and that way, and you still retain it as the constitution of your republic. Then what can you say to Jammeh again? It shows that the very people who are managing the affairs of a nation and all the political actors that do not see any need to do anything to really reshape the destiny of the nation are collectively responsible for the state of the Gambia. So if that is the Gambia we want, like the person says, well, we don't have a new Gambia, and we don't have a new Gambia. But if we accept to engage in the debate to a point that we know exactly what is right and who wanted to do wrong, who wanted to inject something wrong in what should be our document, then we identify those who are against the interests of the nation and those who are for the interests of the nation. And I believe that with that alone, we would have created a template so that those who will govern tomorrow will know where to start. But if we fail to engage now and disengage, well, then it shows that we are yet to be fit to even call ourselves sovereign citizens. This should really provoke the most intense debate on constitution building that ever had taken place in the life of this country. If we do, we would make history, even if the executive does not, or the National Assembly also fails to do so. But the people themselves will know that we elected people, but they have not been able to deliver what we want them to deliver to us.
I totally agree with you, Honorable Salah, and I think I don't have more further comments, but I think the conversation needs to go in. But as I said, listening to the current, Minister of Justice, some of, as you rightfully said, we can't blame Jammeh. I mean, but some of the 1997 constitutions were taken from a part of the 1997 constitution were taken and implemented into the 2024 draft. And I think the conversation will go in, and but I hope the best, and hopefully we can coalesce. But the fact is, the road it will be steep, and hopefully we all reflect on a more spirited debate as far as what country would like to live in and what country would like to see. And with that, we thank you for coming on the program today. But I understand deeply what you're saying, but it is what it is, and we must continue to have a conversation and engagement. And thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope that you'll continue what you've started to open up this theater for debate on all fundamental issues. Now, the issue of the Constitution is before us. The people must remain engaged to know what is the Constitution of a republic. Let's interrogate every element, even if it's going to fail. At the end of the day, let's enrich our population to know that this is constitution building, and the people are actual lawmakers, the most important lawmakers of a country, because they are the ones who vote at a referendum.
So, Mr. Salah, my final question before we let you go.
People are calling me, and
He thought that was the last question.
No, this one, some people are texting me that you've said that you will never run for office again. Is there any possibility that you could change your mind? If, let's say, Gambians came together and said, you know what? Because you only ran as a DOI candidate once. The first time you run for president was on the NAD. I mean, the thing fell on your lap. You didn't have a choice in the matter. It's only in 2020 when you actually run under a DOI ticket. So this idea that you've been running for office since independence is neither here nor there. So the whole idea of resigning, is there a possibility that your mind could be changed with having it, I mean, giving it another shot?
It is important to speak with clarity and with conviction. 2016, I saw death right in the face. And for the sake of country and people, we were ready to confront it. I stood in 2021 believing that we've broken the chain and that Gambians would know that power belongs to them, and they will entrust it to people who've convinced them that they could address their needs and aspirations. So my situation is very clear. I love my country. I love my people. I hate poverty. I hate their degradation, not only of Gambia, but Africa. I've lived all my life to change that, and will live all my life to change it. My mission now is not to talk about myself and my role to be this or that. I do not have personal ambition. What I've said, and I've said it very clearly, is that our role now is to ask Gambia what Gambia they want. Ask Gambians what Gambia they want. And what type of leadership can bring that about. That is what I tell every DOI member, everybody who is concerned with a role that I may play, that is what the situation demands. Let's build consensus as Gambians on the type of Gambia we want, irrespective of party affiliation, irrespective of who is going to stand in elections. And then when we define that, we ask ourselves, what type of leadership can actually bring about that Gambia? And in defining that leadership, everybody matters. What we must move away from is this personalization of leadership. We are talking about leadership. And I will assure the Gambian people, I will forever be among the leadership of a nation who will be working day and night to eradicate the poverty, to eradicate the injustice, to eradicate the ignorance in my homeland. That is what I committed myself for. That's the contract I signed since I was 16 years. That contract is inviolable. And people should not continue to distort what I have said. What I've said is not abandoning the nation and the people. What I've said is situational. And it is well understood that I offered myself and the people made their decision. I am not the type of person who in any way, under any circumstances, and say power for any sake. Power as the people want, and power to eradicate their poverty. And one can always be part of a leadership to be able to do that.